footage or something.
So, Mommy, what made you realize that you needed to focus on yourself?
Woo. Okay, that's a loaded question. But for me, the kicker, of course, is, naturally the first time when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That naturally threw me for a loop. And in that moment, and I probably have told this story before, even before being diagnosed with breast cancer, I was dealing with crippling anxiety and panic attacks. And that was one of the things that made me start thinking, oh, you're not doing enough for yourself. You got to probably try something else. But instead, I got on antidepressants, which of course helped. And, so I felt like it kind of put a Band-Aid on it. I was able to cope and not freak out, not have panic attacks, be able to take care of you guys, do all the things I needed to do. But then, then here come cancer. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Anxiety is one thing because it's crippling. And it can be life-threatening, just depending. But cancer, of course, that's, a life-threatening diagnosis. And that's when I realized that I was always riddled with guilt about doing anything that was just focusing entirely on me. As a mom, wife, and even, my job, I had to give all of that, everything. But, it's something about cancer that literally just makes you say, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's like now, and of course the initial diagnosis is crazy. So you're numb. You're numb initially. You don't know what to think. You want to be upset. You want to cry. You want to do all of that. But, after my little pity party, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this head on. And I'll say, even in the process of like going through the treatments and all of that, and of course the antidepressants help with that, the surgery and radiation and losing my hair and all of that. And even in those moments, I still wasn't focusing on me. I was focused on my health and whatever I had to do to get through the treatment. But it was when it was all said and done, and I was out on my own. No round-the-clock care from my doctors, no more chemotherapy and all that I knew was there killing the cancer and all of that. All of that was done. And that's when I knew I had to grab hold of my life. Because in those moments, I realized after surviving cancer and feeling like I was cancer-free, I was depressed. I was legitimately, like depressed then. Not depressed while I was going through it, but in the end of it, I was depressed. Because I guess it was kind of like, now what? And so that's when I decided, it's like, you got no excuses. Yeah. You got to get out here and live your life and do more for you, because actually doing more for you gives you more to do for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think one of the first things that I felt bad about is, feeling like taking time away from the kids, from y'all, going places. How would that make y'all feel? If I'm not at home or I'm doing stuff. But in reality, what I learned is y'all appreciated that about me. Y'all saw that as, maybe not, in the early stages, but as it became our lifestyle, became a part of our life, for mommy to be out here doing things that makes mommy fulfilled and happy, y'all embraced it and y'all loved it. And, that's when I kind of knew that was the right step. I mean, it can't be all about me, but at least I had to incorporate me into my life and my happiness. And sometimes it was something just as simple as, signing up for something, joining in on an opportunity, or just being with my friends. Just going with my girls and, hanging out and, and having that kind of time for myself. And then even creating a lifestyle for me that, you know, in whatever moment I could think about or I can engage in, and it would be fulfilling, and it would just make me feel good about myself. So, you know, focusing on me was just is one thing, like, you know, getting out doing stuff and da 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 da, but then also internally focusing on me and learning to just really love myself for who I am. You know, for what I'm doing in those moments, whatever it is, just loving me. You know, for whatever, even if I came up with a good idea one day, just stopping and embracing in that moment and be like, that was smart, Angie.
Yeah.
You came up with that all by yourself. And just being okay with even saying those kind of things to myself, or, you know, going out buying myself new clothes and thinking I look good, and then even just what's been afforded to me from all of my lifestyle changes, working out, doing the things that, you know, make me feel fit or whatever, but just even basking in some of that and say, hey, look at what you're doing. Look how great you look. Look how good you're feeling. Well, most days. But but just being okay with that. Just being okay with that. And just in those moments basking in it and just being like, yeah, I love me. I'm a good person. Yeah, and just being okay. And so I think for me, I know I've kind of been all over the place with this question. I think for me, ultimately, it was getting rid of any guilt around focusing on me.
Yeah. That's real. I know it sucks, like the circumstances that it took for you to realize that, but overall, it's great that you did, because now you just live so freely and unapologetically, and I feel like that's how everyone should live.
And then coming to the reality, everything's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to make the right choices, not always going to make the right decisions. But, you know, just not beating myself up about that. You know, just accepting. You know, just having acceptance of me, you know, is a good thing. And it's just sad. You're right. It's sad that it took something like that, you know, for me to get here. And that's why there were times when I have referred to having cancer, not only just at one time and, you know, again, 10 years later. I look at it almost as a gift, mainly because, yes, I'm still here. But it's a gift in the sense that it, you know, gave you an opportunity to look at life in a different way. And not all of us are afforded that opportunity to have gone. I mean, a lot of us have and will. And hell, COVID was that for just the world. But at that time in my life, realizing not everybody had that opportunity to have to go through something life-threatening and survive it and be able to sit back and appreciate so much. Yeah. Just the little things, you know. And that's why I refer to it in my brain sometimes as a gift. Yeah. It's kind of crazy when I look back on it. I mean, you know, sometimes things just really just happen to you for no reason. I mean, it just happens. Like there's no message in it or anything like that. But I don't know why I'm talking to you about this now. But I realize that I'm that type of person. Like whenever something does happen to me, I always feel like I have to learn something from it. Like I had to figure out a way to bring something, you know, positive out of the situation.
That's a good thing though.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, when they go through things, it's hard for them to get to that point where they realize the lesson, learn the lesson. Right. Like they're so caught up in just whatever it is that they like what they went through and dwelling and wallowing in that like they don't even know how to pull themselves out of it to get to a point where they can you know,
find something,
do better or
but
prevent, you know.
But the only bad thing about it is sometimes I wonder if that in itself is just this false sense of something that I've created, you know, like.
It could be. Yeah.
Where you have to, you have to find a way to turn it around when sometimes in reality, you do need to just sit back and feel.
Yeah.
Whatever has happened to you.
I feel like if anything, you have to create a balance of both. If you don't allow yourself to feel, then oftentimes you're suppressing. So it's like, in a way, once you do fall into different, like, similar situations where you're hurting, a lot of times you become numb, and then that can create like other, I guess, what do you call trauma responses, and future situations that make it harder for you to like find, I guess, the teachable
part. Yeah. And it's funny because I think about it. It helped me survive by trying to always find the positive, like when I had cancer. But the crazy thing is, when it was all said and done, at the end, because I was also taking antidepressants too while I was going through cancer that first time. But when it was all said and done, and I had to live in the reality of where I was in that moment, that's when it hit me. That's when it really hit me. That's when it was like, like, what did you just go through? Like, that was, that was heavy and that was hard and that was life-threatening. Like, even having to take chemo and all the other medications, I didn't know what any of that was going to do to my body. And then once it was all over with, and I felt like I was kind of on my own. To recuperate from it all, and then not having all that additional care and that's kind of when it hit me, and it was like you've never even really taken the time out, except for the one day after my diagnosis when I came home and laid in the bed and just wallowed in the shit for like the entire day. Didn't talk to nobody, sent a message to my job like I'm not coming to work, didn't answer the phone, none of that.
You were at school?
No, I was at home. This was when I got the diagnosis. I came home. I called out from work and just came home. You said you were at school.
We were at school?
Yeah, y'all were at school. I wasn't at school. My brain just... But, yeah, other than that, I never really gave myself time to just really delve into the seriousness of what I was just about to, like, go through. And that's when it hit me. And there were a few moments here and there when I'd be like, I'm just up here talking to these people like this is just like I'm just coming here to give blood or something. Like they just go, give me a shot. I'm just not even taking it. I'm not taking the whole seriousness of it all, like in those moments. And it was probably the antidepressants that helped. But yeah, I realized that I never like lived in the space and allowed myself to just be upset and mad and worry or whatever. So it was kind of good. It happened the way it did in the end. I had to just be like, okay, well, time to just get moving on something.
You never stop. Yeah, I definitely feel and see that as a gift, because I just feel in this culture, this society, we are often taught that like focusing on ourselves is selfish. And in some ways it can be if your intentions aren't good. Right. But a lot of times, like, I feel like people fail to realize, and it takes time to get to the point where you learn that you focusing on yourself allows you to not only be better for you but better for others. So yeah, it took me a minute to learn that, but I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that I became okay with it. Yeah, that was the hardest part. It's just feeling okay with that feeling, that you're just doing things, that feel good for you. Yeah. And the gift was freaking cancer. That would, make it okay. And I realized I'm blessed because I did survive it. Because unfortunately, over time I've had several folks who didn't. And that's another thing that I realized that even makes it more okay to focus on yourself, Angie, because you are still living for those people that can't, because a lot of times there's certain things I do and I'll think about like a certain person, like, oh, I remember that time when she, and that's my way
of, just handling, the grief around that, finding the good
Mm-hmm.
in the situation.
I love that you said your name when you said that too, because like you're also like you're explaining it to me, but you're also reminding yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at the same time. So.
Because every day like it's a brand new journey, like process.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you know that and you've had the realization,
Right.
you still have to take time to remind yourself in so many moments, like every day.
Yeah, because I know we're talking around in circles because you're focusing on yourself allows you
Right.
to be able to have the time to focus on others.
Yeah.
And you're even better at focusing on others because you feel good about yourself and where you are, and you feel like whatever you have to offer to your friends is coming from a good place. Because a lot of times, I know you know this, when people are unhappy with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
they might talk this, that, and the other, but they're not really focusing on bettering themselves or putting themselves in a good place. A lot of times those folks are deflecting that
Yeah.
on other people.
Yeah.
And they can't wholeheartedly give themselves, to other people because they're still, dealing with whatever's inside, there that they're not working out. They're not actually, really putting themselves to the forefront and doing those things that's really going to make them a better person. They think they are because, I'm going out and getting my hair done, I'm doing this, I'm looking good, da 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 da. But in the meantime, I'm shady.
Yeah.
And that's the realization I have to come to, and that's why it's important for me to be okay with me
Yeah.
and to feel good about me, because I can give so much better to everybody else. And not to say you're always going to be that on the forefront all the time. There are moments when you're going to be down, mad at yourself and this, that, and the other, and you'll just sit back and just don't really engage and just, spend time with yourself. But you have to not live there.
Yeah.
Can't
stay there forever.
You can't stay there forever. But focusing on yourself in general, making yourself happy, actually does help pull you up out of those situations.
Yeah.
Easier, because you start remembering, like, oh, I remember when I was feeling like this, or I know how I felt when I was doing this, when I ran that race, or when I went with my friends to Miami or whatever. And it's like you want to pull yourself back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is my point.
Yeah.
And so you're still gonna have your ups and downs. You're still gonna get down and out. You're still gonna have a bad day at work, have a bad conversation, with somebody that, that takes you there, that makes you feel that. Or you're not been eating right, so you're just feeling like crap.
Yeah.
All of these things. But because you've been in those happy places and you've got good people in your life and, you got all these, positive things, I feel like you're able, it's a lasting effect. I know I'm going around and about.
Yeah, no, I mean,
You're
it's
able to pull yourself back
never
out.
ending. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything, like you said, like it teaches you how to navigate
Mm-hmm.
certain situations, whether you've been through them in the past or even new ones, because you've taken the time to learn yourself, sit with yourself, and know what you don't like, what you don't want to deal with, or what you do, and it is a gift. It's a beautiful thing, and
It's helpful.
love that for you.
Yeah. Well, let me throw it back at you now. So, what made you realize that you needed to, focus on you?
I feel like when I got to the point that I realized like I was still living like I needed permission from others, and I feel like a lot of it, and not to like place blame, but like I feel like a lot of it has to do with me being the oldest and the responsibility that I've carried I guess with that role. And I don't think that you, like my parents, my dad, like put a lot of pressure on me to just
be the influence.
to be the role model for my sisters. But I think it just naturally happens.
That's you.
And then too, like if it's just who you are, then like it's gonna happen. But a lot of times, like older siblings, you do carry that because of how you're parented. And each child like receives, different type of a parent, because whatever, phase that you're in when,
Yeah, it's only natural. It's like you are the example. And even if we didn't say it,
yeah,
we might have portrayed it, or even looked at you, or even portrayed it in some ways as we were raising the others, because you're like, well, Joe didn't do that. Or
and I think don't get me wrong, like I love, being the person that my siblings look to. And even for y'all, like if there's, sometimes you may not know certain things, and you come to me or whatever, but like I've realized that like I still live my life like I need permission from you all, because there's also not only like being a role model for my siblings, but also just worrying about disappointing you. And I feel like that is heavy too. Yeah. And once again, you guys haven't put a lot of pressure on me, but like I've kind of naturally always just been someone that's fearful of just everything. Yeah. And so because of that, like I'm just very careful. And a lot of it is just who I am. Like it's ingrained in me. Like that's me. But there's still just like this invisible weight that like I have to. Like if something new comes to my mind that I may want to pursue or do or whatever, big or small, I'm like, ooh, like that sounds great. Like let me like initially I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can do that, but then I'm like, well, what are they gonna say? Like what is mommy
Girl,
gonna
you know what's funny about all of this? Because if only you could channel yourself back to that moment when we were at the photography studio. That's when you were taking the risk. That's what you were taking, all the risk, and you weren't looking for anybody's permission. And it's of course you're just a toddler at that point. But when we were getting the pictures taken of Nika, it was Nika's turn to get her pictures, and you decided to climb the wall.
Oh, I'm thinking you're talking about recently.
No,
I'm like,
I'm talking about when you were little. Like if you could channel yourself back to that moment where you weren't looking for anybody and you literally climbed the wall, climbed up the shelf while we weren't looking.
Definitely need a lot more of that.
You need to go back to that person. Then of course you fell, and we had to rush you to the hospital and everything. So I felt like that was probably the last moment of your life. Yeah. When you didn't ask for anybody's permission, and you were, I mean, it was a great time. Yeah. For you to be alive. And I mean, you were a toddler.
Right. It's much different. There's so much more that come, and stuff. But like with that realization, I also realized that like I don't really accept myself, and I also don't fully know myself because I don't take certain risks that I feel like I should take. And now I'm at a point where it's like I really need to like lock in with me. Like what do I really like? What do I want to say in moments where I feel like my voice is silenced, and what do I what do I really like enjoy, and the people who are in my life, do I even really want to deal with them? Like, like it's like there's so many things that go into that, and I'm glad I figured it out. And I feel like too, a lot of it comes from, I know everybody hates this word now, but like being an empath, like just feeling. Yeah. Well,
I get it.
Feeling so much
for everybody.
For everybody, and I remember the first time like I had the experience of me going through that. And you probably remember too, was when I was in middle school, and a child at my sister's school unfortunately passed away. And I remember just being Mallory, so triggered by that.
And you had never met her.
I never met her, but I just remember to the point where I went to school and I was just sobbing, and the teacher was like, asking me what was wrong. They had to send me to, the counselor, and that was when you decided to put me into therapy. But I think too, that was also when like I woke up to the world, to the reality of the world. Yeah, like, the world of like how effed up it is.
Girl, no, your first moment, that was like your second big moment. And there might have been a few other moments when you saw a bird dead on the side of the road. but and you cried. But your first moment was when you were at school, in elementary school, and they called us because you had come to the realization that your parents were going to die one day. And you lost it. It just broke down and just had a day.
So dramatic.
They had to call us just to come and make sure you were okay.
And you said this was when?
Elementary school. You were probably like second grade.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't remember that. The time I remember was middle school, so I guess I was like 11, 12.
And that's when we knew that you felt things.
Yeah, deeply.
But it was good because it's like you came to the realization and you filtered it through and you felt it. You know, it was like you accepted it and you felt it and you just let it.
Yeah.
You gave yourself that time to kind of deal with it and get through with it. You know, of course, we talked to you, said the typical things that parents would say. You know, oh, that's gonna happen years down the line or whatever. But those are things that parents just say.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was just that moment that you needed to have, and while it was devastating to you, you eventually you overcame it. And then the same thing with the thing with Mallory, but I feel like it is your process of what you have to do.
Yeah.
But and just knowing like who you are, being an empath, we have to create mechanisms.
Yeah, and that's what I guess in a sense I've struggled with.
Yeah.
Because I'm always there for so much for other people.
Right.
Like I don't really spend enough time with myself to like. I guess like I'm in touch with like how I feel things, but like just like the nitty gritty of like the fiber of like me and like just accepting that and really knowing that and being able to communicate that is what I am lacking and I want to focus on.
Focus on that. Yeah.
And so like that has really been the source of me realizing and sadly it's just happening within the past couple years. So going into my 30s and initially I wanted to beat myself up about that because it's like, girl, why it take you so long? But at the same time it's just like it is what it is. I'm glad I've reached this point because I'm still young and I still have a lot of life to live and I will get there.
Right. And
I just want to continue to prioritize that for myself so that I can show up better for me. And because like I said before, like once you do that for yourself, a lot of times you'll realize that your relationships, whether it be friendships or intimate or whatever, like end up growing and thriving more than how.
And I think you're in a good place because you say early 30s, 31, still in your early 30s. Think about the fact that the first time I had kids, I was 37. And that's when I was coming to...
That's the first time?
That's the first time. I was 37.
You were 37?
Oh. I was 47 the second time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what, 5 years away, because you'll be 32. So the fact that you're coming to these realizations now, it's not late in the game. I guess it's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Like actually really understanding yourself and being okay with yourself.
Yeah.
It's just a sad thing. It took me that long. I understood myself for a long time, but I wasn't okay with myself. And I really can honestly say until that happened to me. And that's when I became how you call it, unapologetic. Unapologetic.
Unbothered and unapologetic.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I've definitely had phases where I have been that, and I've always just freely been myself,
Yeah, you have.
But it's just...
It's internal. Yeah,
it's internal. And I think, too, with all the traumatic events that I've experienced within the past 5 years, it's just kind of woken up other parts of me that I didn't even realize needed waking up, and that's the reality of it. But I'm working on it, so that's all that matters.
And where do you think you are in the process?
That's a good question. I feel like honestly, like I'm still in the beginning stages. Cause like I said, like I've had the realization over the past couple years, but I didn't really take the time to do the work,
right,
or to ask myself the questions, or like to just really dig deep within me, because I've just been doing and dealing with a lot. So yeah, I want to say within the last year, or honestly 6 to 8 months, I've been like trying to spend more time with myself, and yeah,
like really with yourself, not just by yourself, but
yeah, yeah,
with yourself.
And sadly, actually, let me not say sadly, it has kind of put me in a space of isolation. Because sometimes you do kind of have to pull yourself out of just everything that you've been a part of. Because a lot of times, yeah, like you have to like, what's the term? It's like to put a like go above, or I don't know, like to put
to look over like
a telescope, or
your views. What do you call that?
Change my vantage point.
Yes.
So I can't think of the term.
Like you're viewing it.
Yeah,
watching
like
it,
overlooking.
Overlooking.
To see if I've missed anything, and I guess like pulling yourself out of things allows you to see what you may need to change,
right.
Or basically, it's been a little lonely, but it's all gonna pay off in the end. Like it'll all be worth it, and it'll help me understand me better.
Yeah, just don't stay there for a long
time. No, that's not the plan. It's just a season of just
discovery.
Rediscovering.
Rediscovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think we have to rediscover ourselves.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of eras, phases where you'll
kind of self-evaluate.
Yeah,
that's basically. I think that is important, because even being in a space where you feel like, oh, I'm loving myself, whatever. Sometimes you got to stop in those moments and still check yourself.
Right.
And and make sure, because of course we're never gonna be perfect. We're not gonna do everything right or whatever. But
I feel like that shouldn't be the goal either.
No, that should not be the goal. But just check in with yourself, and make sure, because you can feel like you're loving yourself, but then once you start denying other pieces of your life, that will pull you back down.
And I realized that too. Yeah. I definitely had moments where I was denying things, thinking that I needed to step back, and then after the fact I was like, well, no, that brings me joy.
That brings you joy.
So now I know that, and going forward, remember that. But also, you said something made me think about how my goal in this isn't to just be happy, because I feel like that's everyone's goal. Yeah. And there's so many more emotions that we deal with. Right. So that's why my goal is always to be at peace. Because I ultimately just want, whatever situation I'm in, I want to just have an understanding that, like, when I check myself, okay, this means this, and with that decision, or that puts me at peace. No, that's key. Yeah. Because that's kind of the answer that I was getting at, as opposed to just being happy all the time. Yeah. That's not. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. That's not achievable. But yes. Not in this world. No. Finding peace in your situations, is ideal. That's the goal, yeah. Yeah, because there's always stuff that's just going to be thrown at us. Like we won't even talk about the state of the world right now, because that's enough to shoot me through the roof. But it also makes me think of a certain thing that I've said to someone in an elevator, because in that moment I so felt this, because every day you go in the office, you go to work every week, and you're just going through the motions, just doing the thing, and it's so typical for people to be like on Monday, like, ugh, can't wait till Friday gets here. Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy you said that. I was just thinking about something yesterday. And somebody said that in the elevator, and I was like, no, sometimes we just gotta bask in the joy of today and live, and make sure we live each day. Yeah. And then, when Friday comes, it's like the icing on the cake. But
but you know, let's not rush. I don't even know what I said to whomever in the elevator, but I know those were my thoughts. Let's not rush through all these days just to look for Friday. Because
one day, because then it's gonna go away, and then you're gonna be sad again.
Exactly. Because otherwise, that whole week meant nothing. It's gone.
And then and that's how like everything starts to become a blur. You train your mind to look forward to a few days.
Yeah, and that's why I say I want to live my days.
Yeah.
No matter what they are. And that is one of the things that I learned from going through cancer. When the doctor told me to live in the moment, and at that moment I was like, this moment sucks. Like, I want to live in this. But later on, I got it.
Yeah.
Live in the moment, the space that you're in, because frankly, you're alive. And whatever is coming up in this moment, you're good. You're okay. And so that's why no matter what we're going through, what's happening with the world and the space we're in or whatever, those are our days.
Yeah.
And we need to just live them. You know, every day we're breathing, you know, whatever, we're dealing with, we're still there. And I felt that way with cancer treatment, and even with COVID.
Yeah.
Because that was some tough times. And I just felt like these are our days. So whatever it is, what they're telling us we can and cannot do, and, you know, wearing your mask, whatever, I was like, you know, I'm just going to live in the space that I'm in, in this moment.
That's all we can do,
Girl, and even, I don't talk about the state of the world, but these days right now, hard to live in. But I have to keep telling myself, you know, this is still my time. And sometimes, like, you know, as Nika said, we disassociate ourselves with some of this.
Yeah.
Until we have to deal with it.
It's so crazy you brought that up, though, because I was just thinking, well, this was Friday, and there's just a certain, like, specific energy in the air when it's Friday. Yeah. And it made me reflect on how, like, even when you think about Mondays, like, you can feel, like, the dreariness, the dread that, like, it's like you can literally feel it, like when you're on the road, like in traffic and stuff, like. And I was like, why do people do that to themselves? Like, I get it, like honestly, this is what we have, you know, to look forward to. Yes, and it's like, in a sense, it's just like, like I don't want to have to work for you know rest of my life. But at the same time, why don't we treat every day like it's Friday? Yeah, think of it that way. Because. I don't know, like it's we take so much from ourselves when we don't do that. I'm just dreading. And then literally it keeps you in a place of just always complaining and not like being grateful. And and it's like easier said than done. I know it is. But I think what I end up doing sometimes, this is just me, I don't know if this works for other people, is just looking forward to the small things throughout the day. Yeah. Like if I have a meeting that I'm dreading and I had to prep for or whatever, and then I got through it, and at the end of the meeting, you know, there's that sigh of relief, like, oh, done. Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah. But that's why it's so important to stay present, like stay in the moment. Like, you know, we hear these things preached often, but like take it for what it is. Like listen, like when you're not dwelling on the past or, you know, worrying about the future, you really can like enjoy and take something from those moments. And then even if a lot of times it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. Right. And something else, you know, came out of it that, you know, that just gave you a little spark. Yeah. So it's like I just try to look forward to those things. I mean, we're still looking forward to something. Right. But still appreciating it just in that moment. Yeah. You know, aside from just jumping ahead to, I can't wait till this week is over. Yeah. But, you know, just the simple things, you know. And I'm reading a book right now called Presence, and I've read like a lot of different things when it comes to that, but like it's really helping me right now to, like in my journey of focusing on myself, because it's still very easy for me to just be like, oh, I can't wait till I get to the other side of this. But it's just like, no, like just just be here. Yeah. And you'll learn a lot of things. No, you have to live in the space that you're in that moment. And I may have said this previously in this conversation, but even if it's something bad and it hurts, and it's got you angry or whatever, just
you know, sometimes we just have to live in that space.
Yeah.
Take it all in, you know, because it's so hard to get to the other side of it until we just kind of absorb it in that moment. So it makes it easier. Yeah, it's a part of the process,
Right.
you know. And it's sometimes, not every moment is a good moment. Yeah, and even if you look at it, it's all perception, you know. Just like when you're working out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's always hard to get up to go to work out, because that's the hardest part, just getting up, just to get up and to go. And then, you know, once you get up, you're like, oh, you're all gung ho. I'm like, oh, I'm ready for this. But then you start getting into the exercise, and you be like, why the hell did I think this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And so then I start, you know, thinking about the reps.
Yeah.
But it's like each time, especially when those sets that are really, really hard, it's like the hard stuff. And so I start trying to not so much look at being finished with it, but looking at what I've finished already. That was 2 sets already.
Yeah.
You know,
It's really a game of mind over matter.
Change your perception. And the crazy thing is, by the time you get to the end of it, when you feel like you're going to be so exhausted and just so done with it, and in that moment you realize, like, dang, I could have done a whole nother set.
Right. Once it's all over.
Once it's all over.
That's why it's so important to like change how you talk to
yourself. Just change your perception of it, and then, you know, whatever it takes to help you to get through the hard parts of it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's always good, even while it's happening. There's some good moments in it, but you know, it's just that hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard part.
But that's why it's so important to take the time to focus on yourself, and the good that has come from me taking this time to focus on myself is realizing that I have an amazing support system. It's strengthened my relationship with God, and ultimately it's just allowed me time to really learn myself. And that's the goal. And we hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. It's new for us, but we wanted to just have more intimate conversations with each other that we have all the time.
Yes, this is actually sparked from midday conversations.
Exactly.
While I'm working.
Because a lot of times you just don't know how it may help or inspire other people. And right now we don't have a name for this, but if you do, please leave it in the comments below, and we can talk about it, because that's what we like to do, talk. But we hope you thoroughly enjoyed that, and if so, let us know. If you have questions that you want us to discuss, or just any type of topics, let us know in the comments as well. And as always, please subscribe. Hit the post notification bell so you don't miss any of this content. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Continue to use the hashtag Make It Move, but also another hashtag will come that we want you to start using specifically for this segment.
Talk it out.
And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter.
Not Twitter.
At One Fit Movement. Hope you guys have an amazing day and week. Peace, love, and light.